Henrik sat alone in his nursing home when his granddaughter and grandson unexpectedly arrived for a visit. Their father, Joseph, was conspicuously missing. However, he soon appeared, filled with anger, only to uncover the reason behind his children's decision to see their grandfather that day, and in the process, he learned something significant. Henrik sat alone in his room thinking about life and feeling sad that his family had not remembered his birthday. He was living in a nursing home because his son couldn't care for him while working and raising two kids independently. His wife left them several years earlier, and things were hard for the family. There was a knock at the door, and suddenly, Henrik's 15-year-old granddaughter Aubrey and 7-year-old grandson David burst into the room with a cake. "Happy birthday, Grandpa!" they yelled in unison, and Henrik couldn't have been more delighted to see them. "We're so sorry, Grandpa. We couldn't fit 76 candles on this tiny cake, but we bought it with love. Because we love you so much, Grandpa," David exclaimed, and they started singing happy birthday in the middle of his room. It wasn't perfect or fancy, but Henrik couldn't have asked for more. Except his son, Joseph, was not there with his kids. "Where's your dad?" he asked once he had blown out the candle, and Aubrey started cutting some pieces of cake. She began nervously. "He had a business trip at the last minute, so we decided to come by. He sends you a happy birthday too." Henrik nodded, unsure if his granddaughter was telling the truth, but she was a friendly kid. Why would she lie? They started eating the cake when David spoke up. "Grandpa, the Boston Bruins are playing tonight. Let's watch the game together like we used to do at home." The older man smiled at the little kid and turned on the television in his room. The game was in its first period, and they all sat together watching it happily. It was his definition of the perfect evening. About a half hour later, Joseph burst into the room, and it seemed like he had run all the way there. He was breathless and looked at his two children in anger. "Aubrey," he yelled, "you can't just leave the house without telling me first. A note on the fridge is not enough. What are you two doing here? And at this hour no less." "Dad, calm down," Aubrey soothed with her hands raised. Henrik stared at his son and looked at his granddaughter with a frown, not understanding what was going on. "Aubrey, I thought you said your father was on a business trip." Aubrey lowered her hands and sighed heavily. "Yeah, I lied, Grandpa." "Why?" "Because Dad didn't remember today's date," she continued, surprising Henrik. But everything finally made sense, and for some reason, he was incredibly proud of his grandchildren. "What's going on?" Joseph demanded to know, looking back and forth between Aubrey and Henrik. "It's Grandpa's birthday, Dad. We brought him a cake." David chimed in happily. "And now we're watching the game, like we did when he was at home." "Oh," Joseph muttered, his mouth open in surprise. "Dad, Jesus, I'm so sorry. I forgot." Henrik forgave him quickly because he knew that his life was hard, and the truth is that Joseph forgot about his birthday because he went on his first date in a long time. The kids went back to watching the game, and Joseph pulled his father aside for a private talk. "I'm sorry, Dad. I went on a date, and I was so nervous that I forgot. I wish we could take you out for the rest of the evening." "Son, it's okay. I understand why you placed me here. It's a hassle dealing with an older man, but I'm fine here. I just wish you guys visited more often," Henrik expressed, patting his son's shoulder. Suddenly, the night nurse stepped into the room and told them that visiting hours were over long ago. They only let them in because it was Henrik's birthday. "Excuse me, miss." David spoke up. "Yes." "Can you give me the address of this place?" he asked. "Of course." "Why?" she said with a huge smile. "Because I need to know where to send my father when he's old like Grandpa," David said innocently. But he had no idea what the adults in the room thought of his words. They were all shocked, and Aubrey scolded him with a small pat on his arm. "Shut up," she told her little brother. But Joseph was looking at his son intently. He had no idea that David thought about that stuff already. He could be stuck in this nursing home in the future after the example he had provided for his kids. He couldn't let his kids think abandoning family was alright. The nurse looked awkwardly around the room and wanted to leave, but Joseph called out to her. "You know what, miss? We're taking our dad home," Joseph told the night nurse. "Oh, for how long?" "For good," Joseph declared, prompting Aubrey to embrace her father tightly while David joyfully bounced around the room. Henrik was taken aback but began to pack his bags with the support of his family. Joseph arranged for a home care specialist, and their family life flourished. He recognized how much the children had missed their grandfather and how much he cherished his father's wisdom in all aspects of life. It turned out to be the best decision he had ever made.